Very good morning to you. Keep those alarms coming in. Of course, we'll be looking at them throughout the show. You can get us across social media at K24 TV. Now, it's time for us to get into our newspaper review. Look at the big stories of the day. As always, look at the front pages of dailies and then get to my panel as we discuss the big stories, of course, that are making headlines this morning. Front page of the People Daily. Helpless man or fearless fighter? The PD asks. Claims by Deputy President William Ruto that he was being fought by a powerful cabal in government has sparked debate on his place and future in the Jubilee administration. That's a story that's on the front page of the PD. Also, interestingly, a quote from Governor Mutua as far as this is concerned. We'll be talking about that in just a bit. Also, on the front page and on World News, Italy now quarantines 16 million. Weddings, funerals, and religious events suspended as coronavirus death toll in the country hits 230 and infections rise to 5,883. That's a story that's keenly being followed as well, and you can find it in your copy of your People Daily this morning. Also, as we marked International Women's Day yesterday, women leaders renew call for two-thirds gender rule. Politicians demand inclusion in all the country's governance structures as spelled out in the Constitution. That's a story that you can get as well in your copy of your People Daily this morning. As I always tell you, it is Kenya's #1 free newspaper, so please get it and get fully informed. We move on now from the People Daily to the Daily Nation's front page. Uproar over plan to impeach Ruto. Does Senate Minority Leader James Orengo have sufficient grounds to seek the removal of the Deputy President from office? And can he marshal two-thirds of all elected MPs to support his bid? That's the question the Daily Nation asks this morning. You can get that particular story right there. Also on the Daily Nation, Uhuru completes 2-kilometer run. Well, quite an active president, as you can see right there. President leads Kenyans in the Beyond Zero annual run, championed by First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, in support of various causes, including ending maternal deaths. That story being covered in your copy of the Daily Nation. But also on matters of economy, where Kenya's economy is on its knees, the Daily Nation has this story on page 6. Unemployment at its highest, while agricultural exports have declined. The Parliament has now tasked Treasury to steady the ship. How do they do that as we move forward? Of course, the budget policy statement out. But what does Parliament also need to do in playing, a good check and balance role as far as that's concerned? That's a story that is in your Daily Nation this morning. You can get it on that. On the front page of the Standard, isolated. The Standard says, President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga attended a city football derby yesterday as DP William Ruto declared for the second day in a row that he was fighting a lonely battle in government. That's the story that the Standard has for you this morning, front and center. Front page of the Star, Uhuru ICC evidence fabricated, says an expert. President faced accusations of murder, rape, deportation and persecution, but a forensic linguist says at least 30 witness statements against Kenyatta were falsified. That story can be found in your copy of your Star this morning. The ghosts of 2007 being brought back, and you can find that right there in your Star. Finally, front page of the Business Daily, job cuts, double workers' loan defaults to 52 billion Kenya shillings. Sacked employees who took loans on the strength of their pay slips in default as they seek to secure new jobs. What does this mean moving forward? Of course, we've had very many job layoffs as far as that's concerned. How do we move forward in terms of jump-starting that economy in that particular sector as well? It's a story that can be found in your copy of your Business Daily this morning. Let me get to my panel, introduce them as we get into the big stories of the day. This morning, joined by political analyst Frederick Okango. Good morning.
Good morning. And also Secretary General of the party.
We'll talk about that because that is still an issue of debate. We've gotten different reports from your party as well, so I can't say that authoritatively right here on the show, Fred. But we'll talk about that as well. We also have governance expert Dennis Thumbi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Also for the first time, Justice Minor, policy and governance expert. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
And from Siasa, please, Nerimo Wako.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Welcome. Let's start off with the front page story that's clearly in different shades and forms on most of our dailies front pages. And it's about the DP. You know, even he said if a front page doesn't have his story, then the paper clearly is not selling. However, let's look at the front page of the PD. Helpless man or fearless fighter? Let's not forget the utterances he made at Kene's funeral on Saturday. He spoke about the fact that the DCI was out to get his office. This is a person who essentially is also, when he says his office, isn't it the office of the, is it the presidency as a whole? What's going on right there when he makes that accusation in public?
There is no word like presidency in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. You can check it, it is never there. It has never been there. But we have the office of the Deputy President and the office of the President. However, the deputy president is a member of the cabinet, and he works closely with the president as his personal assistant. We have had the deputy president speak, but we have not had the president speak about this matter. We have had other politicians speak about this matter. We have had Kenyans talk about it. But one thing is very clear, that there is admission of a criminal activity that happened in one of the highest offices on the land, that is in the office of the deputy president. And the deputy president has asked the relevant authority to investigate and give Kenyans a report. We do believe that the investigative authorities will give Kenyans the report and the true report. Secondly, we are starting the 2022 campaigns in earnest. And what is going to happen, there are going to be a lot of hypes and laws concerning politics. But we know that the deputy president, Dr. William Ruto, has been all along trying to woo people, would be people that would want to work with. And in his own words, he said there are people who are fighting him. He didn't mention them, but he said there's an elaborate plan supported by the system. Again, those are his words that I wouldn't want to talk about because probably he knows them. But I want to talk about the reason why today these issues are coming out. It is the issue of what happened in the office of the deputy president, where the media showed the public the CCTV footage of 3-4 gentlemen walking in, and it's the fake arms deal. If you recall, in the past, and we said about that here, there had been certain instances that was not as elaborate as this one, maybe because it did not happen in one of the senior-most offices. But the cartels in this country have used big names, have dropped names, have visited offices as imposters, as conmen, and have managed to try and con the public in billions. And therefore, it is important also we understand that while these are happening, the police have got a noble job to bring to light the issues that happen right deep in the big offices. The other time they called Merali using the president's number. You remember? Mm-hmm. But this time, there has been death as a result of some of these things. It is very unfortunate that a police officer who served this country with humility had to die in a scandal that probably he was not even aware about. I don't know. But I think, may his soul rest in peace, but I think as Kenyans, we must stand out and now look at the real issue. The real issue is the corruption that has taken us to our knees as a country.
Dennis, I'll come to you because even as you speak about a DP who's increasingly trying to defend himself at every point and turn, any forum he can get, whether on social media or at a funeral, he will state his case there. Mm-hmm. Isn't it curious, the silence of the president concerning all of this? Saying that this is a person he personally chose to be his running mate. So this also affects him.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much, and good morning, viewers. It's absolutely vital to now discuss about this matter. And as I've said before, the character assassination on what is happening to the DP is part of a large smear campaign that is supposed to discredit his office, discredit the person, and ultimately stop him from enjoying any democratic rights of vying. This has nothing to do with the character of the deputy president. It has everything to do with the succession politics of this country. But we must ask ourselves, what is this fight that the DP is fighting? And is it only a Ruto fight or is it a Kenyan fight? And how do we come in as Kenyans? So one of the things that we have to discover, it is absolutely impossible to separate the deputy president and his office and function, and the fact that he's a democratically elected leader. So therefore, the entire nation comes into this fearless fight that he's propagating. And so there are several dimensions of this fight. The first fight is that there are people who believe that nobody else has the right to lead this nation. Only themselves. They believe that they have inalienable rights to be kings over this nation for a lifetime, that only their blood and their generation could lead.
Then because who are these people? We've heard
we have had
cartels,
we have had
deep state. Who are these people?
Utterances on platforms. We have had several people speaking about it, and in fact saying you won't be on the ballot. They have said that in public rallies, and this year hasn't taken any intention. Do they intend to, how do you stop a Kenyan from vying? Perhaps unless you assassinate them. Because I'm trying to see, how would you take my democratic right to vie and to wish and long to serve the people of this country as a president of this nation? The second thing that we need to do and ask ourselves, how are we in this fight, is that we can't separate his office, his functions, and us. Then we need to discover that the vice president is fighting for the unity of the party. And political parties, if Jubilee collapses, its entire promise collapses. Parliament collapses. Because then the truth of the fact is that you will not be able to administrate effectively the promises that you gave us. So the deputy president is fighting to retain the promise of the Big Four, to retain the promise of healthcare, the promise of manufacturing, the promise of food security. The promise of Big Four is what the deputy, because once it collapses, then Jubilee as a party will not have a legacy to speak of. And that's at the end of the day, because to be very honest, now the conversation about the Big Four is dead. Nobody's speaking about it. Nobody's speaking about economic resurrection in this country. Nobody's speaking about the high cost of living in this country at the end of the day. The other thing that we need to ask ourselves is President Ruto, is the Deputy President Ruto a man on his own, or is he a movement? Because we have seen chants in public rallies. We have seen walkouts. We have seen 3/4 of the legislative members, in parliament, county assemblies, supporting him and moving him. Why? Because they hate the betrayal that is playing out. So at the end of the day, you need to ask ourselves, this thing that we are talking about, a fight, actually heightens the political risk of the country.
Let me get to justice.
And I think later on I'll speak about the political risk, because I'm a political risk advisor. We need to know that Kenya is being driven to heightened levels, where we were in 97 and where we were in 2007. And this is a dangerous conversation that this country is having.
Let me bring in Justice as well on this particular scenario, because let's talk about what he's been speaking about. At a promise level, as far as the Jubilee manifesto is concerned, he actually clarified that this is the deputy president. It's not 8 stadiums that are going to be doing 8 stadiums, it's going to be 11. When it goes to scandals, he's spoken about the money that was lost. It wasn't 21 billion, he had said it's 7 billion. Footage in his office, not 23 minutes, now 1 hour, 23 minutes. It always seems like he's the one who's supposed to be answerable to all the faults that are happening there. Is he conveniently the fall guy for everything that goes wrong in government right now?
I must confess that there is a lot of politics of convenience. It's almost fashionable at the moment to condemn Ruto. If you want to be in the good books of the powers that be.
I want us to go there, because he's alluded to that as well. You're talking about these powers that be.
Yes.
Who are these people who you need to
I would be reluctant to name names, but I know it is, and as he said rightly, we've seen people in public say Ruto will definitely not be in the ballot in 2022. We have seen people say publicly that the president will not hand over power to a thief, and of course that it has got the connotation to mean William Ruto.
Right.
So as I said, I think it's like we're in a season of condemning and identifying and profiling Ruto. And of course, the other challenge that I'm seeing is that the headlines, the media is, to me, it looks like the media has allowed the DCI to run its headlines. If you read the newspapers the day after the DCI, gave a press conference, I mean, I would have expected, for example, the media to ask some difficult questions. For example, I'm sure the so-called the people who are handling this matter to do with the arms deals, I'm sure they must have visited a number of offices. So we also run the risk of the danger of the single story, that it is about Ruto's office. But of course, other than the 1 hour, 23 minutes at the maximum, or 23 minutes at the minimum, these people may have been in this country for more than 20 days. So where were they the rest of the more than 400 hours? Other than the 1 hour, 23 minutes, they were in DP's office, for heaven's sake, if they were there for 1 hour, or they were there for 1 hour, 23 minutes. So my worry is what I said, the danger of the single story. It is meant to profile, it is meant to stereotype, it is meant to identify him with the evil, and ultimately it is easy to buy the narrative. Right. If those in power are able to influence the media, and it's easy to be influenced, and without the media itself knowing that they are being used to as a conveyor belt of a narrative that has been cooked somewhere. I also don't think that is a bad thing. Ruto is all over the media. Kenyans and humanity resents power. If you seem to exercise too much power over someone, usually all over the world, you begin to gain some sympathy. I don't think what Ruto sometimes says in public is, I think it's intentional, because I think it's meant to show that I'm one of you. I'm not one of them. When he talks about the system versus me, I think it is meant to project an image of being one among the people that are not within the system. So that at the end of the day, if you go to the grassroots, you begin to, like my brother here did say, begin to see the currency that people begin to identify with William Ruto. And by the way, it's not easy, it cannot sell. If you want to profile Ruto as a thief, the opposition leader or the friend of the president currently has always said, mentioned a number of names and says they are corrupt. And of course, once they visit, allegedly, the Capitol Hill, they are washed with motion moja, and they become nyeupe kama pamba. Then, and that is why Kenyans are not buying this story of William Ruto being all this man of, suspect murderer, a thief, corrupt, because in fact, if you see the BBI brigade and those who are supporting the current movement to change the constitution in the name of BBI, which to me looks like the 1976 changed the constitution, only that this time it is dressed as BBI. But to me, it's the same thing. It is we are back to 1976, change the constitution. Okay,
let me bring in Nerima at this particular point before we get into our first break. Nerima, I want you to look at the front page of the PD, and there's a quote there by Governor Mutua. His outburst is an indication of a man under pressure. He's playing victim to galvanize his base. That is the oldest political trick, and it exposes his underbelly. This quote right here borders on the comical. From a governor who said that due to a handshake he had with the deputy president, who he now claims is playing victim, he felt his life was in mortal danger. Was that the trick he was using as well here? Because now it brings so much into question, because these two have a relationship that goes beyond this headline.
I find it very ironic that the individual who's saying this is Governor Alfred Mutua. But also, it's not to take for granted his utterances. We have witnessed over the last 2 years, I'd say, a crumbling relationship. But the problem with a whole system highlighting a particular individual, it's like if we were to imagine an elephant that continues to bully a rat. The people around, or the jungle around, will begin to identify with the rat. no matter what, because of the obvious reason of size. And right now I'll have to agree with what Justice has just said, where publicly people are beginning to wonder why all this attention around the deputy president. And people are beginning to question this narrative of him being this individual that is so terrible. Because if you even look at the front page of the Standard, the picture that's there is Ruto on his own looking frustrated, and Raila Odinga and our president at a football game having the time of their life. It's not about what we see, it's about what we don't see. What we don't see is our president next to our deputy president.
Right.
During a time or a weekend where on 2 consecutive days he has said that his life is in danger. He has said it before, but this is the second time where he has said it consistently in different fora. So that begs the question to where is the support of the president? So it's not only just for political attention. If it was just for political attention, there would be other players in this chess game aligned completely different. But we can also see within the same papers, there was a delegation to Somalia, to the president of Somalia. And who was leading that delegation?
Right.
It was C.S. Matiang'i. Again, a role that perhaps he could play, considering our relations with Somalia have been very fragile, but he is not playing that role. But we have witnessed certain aspects of his job description, which he doesn't have one within the Constitution, not being implemented by him. So here he is outside, looking a little bit lost. And then, in the same statement at the funeral, he said, he is not a mad man. That speaks volumes, because quite frankly, he appears to be a public official who has no role. And here he is, frankly, screaming that his life is in danger. And he's trying to say that it really is. So I think we should pay attention to the other aspects that are happening, because it's multifaceted. And it's not just about one particular individual. It's about the actions that have been revolving around his particular office, around people who have been seen to be allies to the deputy president. We are talking about Nakuru County. We're talking about people who've been openly supportive of the deputy president. We cannot forget such as Aisha Jumwa. We've seen Senator Susan Kihika being kicked out of meetings in her own county. And we're seeing these messages and utterances of how things will not go this way. But then over the same weekend in Muranga, we had 2 separate visits and fights where MCAs were in hospital and bleeding.
Okay.
This is dire.
Okay, and of course we want your feedback on this as well. You can tweet us at K24TV on your take on this particular story. And even as we take a keen focus on the deputy president and what happens as he moves forward, even from his utterances, the Daily Nation's front page focuses on utterances from Siaya Senator James Orengo, who says, watch this space. In 2 weeks' time, we will start the process that will see us deal with him. The dealing right here is the impeachment of Deputy President William Ruto concerning the fake arms deal. Uproar of a plan to impeach Ruto. Front page of the Daily Nation discussed this. And also, the delegation led to Somalia to, try and get our relations right with President Farmajo. How does that happen? How do you move forward from that particular scenario? That and more after the break.